Your next design challenge, now that you've seen Chuck Jones as the dot and the line, is to create your own story with a beginning, middle, and end where the main characters are only dots and lines. So I'm going to be introducing the Wacom drawing tablet and also how to use the brush tool to make more freeform dots and lines. And we're also going to be further exploring how to create graphic symbols. We're going to go to Adobe Animate. We're going to do File, New. I'm going to change this percentage to like 40% so I can see the entire screen, which I can now if I pull the timeline down slightly. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a new symbol. Make sure it's a graphic symbol. And today is the first day that we're going to be using the drawing tablets. I'm going to just change the color here. You know what? Maybe I'll do green because I'm going to create a cute little inchworm. Now he's kind of going to be a little bit like an inchworm and also kind of like a snake. Notice there's no outline color, just the fill color. So the outline, you hit that red slash, and the fill color, I'm going to pick, I'll pick a nice green. All right, I'm going to go to the brush tool. And if you go to properties, the properties menu here, you're going to see that I have the line set to about 35 pixels per inch. And I'm going to use the brush tool and I'm going to create a little cute inchwormy snake type thing. So I'll use one line, then a second line. Then I'm gonna give him, let me move the properties menu over. I'm gonna give him a cute little smile. I'm gonna use the brush tool, eraser, and paint bucket to create my little inchworm character. I can use the paint bucket to fill this in. So he's a very, very simple little guy. I'm going to give him an eye. I'll just make it black. And I'm going to just fast forward real quick through the process to get to the point where I like my little inchworm character, and I've decided to make it a girl. If you see at the bottom here, this will zoom in or out. There's little mountains here. So I need to slide it to the right just temporarily because I need to see the individual frames. Now I'm going to right click, copy, right click, paste. And now I'm going to slide this down to the second frame. And now I'm going to inch my inchworm by using the free transform tool. So he's going to inch in, well, she's going to inch in. Then I'm going to copy the frame, paste on the next frame. Uh-oh, what happens when I try and push it in? I didn't unite all the objects, so I'm going to have to go back and do that. Okay, so let me just use my cursor. I'm going to go like this. I need to be able to select everything. And then I'm going to do modify, combine objects union. And now it should all be one thing, hopefully. Edit. Okay, now I'm going to go here to transform. And now let me see what happens when I push it in. Now everything pushes it together. Okay, good. Whew. Okay, now copy. Go to the next frame. Paste. Okay. Now I have to slide this down to the last frame. And I'm going to push it in. And I'm going to actually stretch it a little higher. Because the more it squishes, the more it stretches. Copy, paste, and let me slide down to the last frame. And this is frame number 5. I need 6 frames of squishing. So copy. Command Z, I accidentally hit cut instead. Copy. Now I go to the last frame, paste. Now I'm going to slide this down, and I'm going to just squeeze it in more. Now let me just review these frames to make sure they look right. So this is, let me just take this cursor, slide it over everything, and I'm going to modify Combine Objects Union. Okay, so that's 1, 2 squishes in a little more, 3 squishes in a little more, 4 squishes in a little more, 5 squishes in a little more, and 6 squishes in the most. Now, once it's squished in, it's got to squish out again. There is no need to redraw these frames. You just go to the first empty spot after it, and you do select all frames. You copy them. Now you go to the first blank one after the one you just picked. You paste frames. Okay, now this is really super important. I'm going to click on the last one, and now I've got to count. I'm going to hold the Shift key. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the frames I just pasted. They're not the first 6 frames I drew. I'm going to now right click and I'm going to reverse frames. So 1 through 6 are at contracting, and then 7 through 12 have to be the reverse. So now it looks like this. Okay? Very good. Now, I'm going to take all these frames. I'm going to hold the Shift key and hold the first one and hold the last one, and I'm going to select all of them. Okay, the other thing you can do is you can go right after the last frame, hold the Shift key, and slide it over all of them. So they're all selected. Now I'm going to copy the frames. Now I'm going to go to the first blank frame here, and I'm going to paste frames. So right now, it contracts twice. Okay, now I'm going to take all these frames, slide the cursor over all of them, copy them, go here and paste them again. So this is a graphic symbol that goes on and on and on and on and on. So just let me just show you what it looks like. You have to take this blue thing at the top and pull it out. And now this is what my graphic symbol is going to look like, kind of like an accordion. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to my stage. Okay, and I'm going to create an obstacle course for my little inchworm. First thing I'm going to do is switch some colors around, and I'm going to create a ramp. Let's take my rectangle tool and take the cursor, push it in from the outside, and create a ramp. Since you already know how to do this, I'm going to just fast forward and skip through this part. So you're at the very beginning of the timeline and right click Create Motion Tween. When you're done creating your ramp, and then create a new layer. In this new layer, I'm going to go to my library, and I'm going to take my little worm. I'm going to rename this symbol. It's right now called symbol 1, and I'm going to rename it inch worm. Okay, here we go. Now, let me close this up, and I'm going to now take my graphic symbol or inchworm from my library. I'm going to pull him over here, and I'm going to close my library. Okay, now I got to figure out where inchworm is going. First of all, inchworm is facing the wrong way. So I'm going to do transform, and I'm going to flip horizontal. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the inchworm over here. Now this inchworm is very big. I'm going to make it smaller. So I'm going to have to hold the Shift key while I make it smaller so that it shrinks without getting distorted. Okay, so now I've got my tiny little inchworm over here. I'm going to now right click, create motion tween, and I'm going to say that by 1 second, my inchworm will be here. Okay, and then by 2 seconds, my inchworm's going to be here. I'm going to fast forward through this part and edit out some of it so that it's not tedious for you, because I've already previously taught you how to do this. The only thing I want to say is that I made a little snake character or worm character, but you do not have to do that. You can just create an abstract line that makes interesting shapes in space. So you can use all your creativity to create something far more abstract, as long as it has a story with a beginning, middle, and end. And I'm going to play my movie and see how it looks. Okay, so one thing I don't like is that when it's inching along, it needs to rotate a little. I'm going to fast forward through editing this part. You would use the free transform tool and just rotate it, and you'd have to go through the timeline little by little to fix each step. Okay, so I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to insert a new symbol. Okay. If you turn on the onion skinning after you've drawn the first frame, you can copy and paste the second frame, and then you can erase or change it or alter it, and you can see what it looked like before. So here you can see me drawing the first frame using the paint bucket fill to fill it, using the eraser to create the mouth, changing the color for the eye. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it, put it in the second frame, and I'm actually just using the lasso tool to make the mouth look like it's opening. So I use the lasso tool to lasso the top half of the mouth, and then using the free transform tool, rotate it, and then use the lasso to do the same thing with the bottom half of the mouth. It was kind of very inexact and rough, so I had to go back in with a paintbrush and an eraser and fix it. But essentially, I created a sequence of frames of the mouth opening, and then it's a good rule of thumb to create 6 in a row of it opening, and then copy those frames, paste them, and reverse them to make it like it's closing. So then you have 12 frames of the mouth opening and closing. But I had to go back in with the brush and the eraser and go to each frame and kind of smooth them out because they were very rough looking. And then I had to go back and forth and kind of check the motion to make sure the mouth was opening and closing the way I wanted it to. Once I had all 12 frames looking like it was opening and closing the way I wanted it to, I did the same thing that I did for the other graphic symbol, which was I selected all 12 frames, the first 6 of it opening, the second 6 of it closing. I took those 12 frames, I copied them, and I pasted them so that inside the graphic symbol, the mouth is opening and closing over and over again. So I just cut out a whole bunch of that part because it was a little tedious, and I'm just showing you how it ended up. So this is the process for getting those first 12 frames of it opening and closing, and then I started pasting those frames so that there were more frames inside the graphic symbol of it opening and closing over and over again. Okay, so now I'm going to hold the Shift key. I'm going to just drag across all these, they're highlighted in blue, copy them, and then go to the first empty spot and paste them. And I'm going to do that a few times so that my graphic symbol has a whole bunch of opening and closing motions. In order for a graphic symbol to work properly, it has to loop. So if the mouth starts out in a closed position, it has to end up in a closed position. The last frame has to look the same as the first frame. Okay. So now I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to add a new layer. Okay, and in that new layer, I'm going to pull into my library it's called symbol 1, but I'm going to change it to Pac-Man. Okay, because that's what it reminds me of. Okay, so I'm going to take this Pac-Man and I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to make it much larger. I'm going to hold the Shift key. And I'm going to rotate it just slightly. Okay, so now let's see what my story looks like with Pac-Man. Not bad, except what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this and go back to the beginning, create motion tween. Okay, and I'm going to pull Pac-Man off the stage. And he's only going to come onto the stage just about here. Just about here. We'll just fast forward through me testing out the video, and then when I'm satisfied with the results, I'm going to add a new layer and pull that layer down to the very bottom. I'm at the very beginning of my story, and I want to pick a color that's not purple, that's not green, that is a good background color. So I'm going to pick like this sort of light aqua color. I'm going to take my rectangle and I'm going to drag it over to create a background color. Now I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm going to just call it Pac-Man versus Inchworm. Okay. And now I'm going to do File, Export video/media, and it's going to go into my downloads. So I'm going to export it. I'm going to show you some samples of dot in the line videos that students have created in the past so you can come up with your own completely unique original idea.